Welcome back to Eislyn Bay. This is my little village before you go into the fairytale forest. I did this all off screen because pathing and little fences, not the most interesting thing to watch. But today I'm going to show you how Geppetto has started his little shop on Eislyn Bay. Let's turn into Geppetto. Well, Geppetto was an old woodcarver, toy maker. Well, basically he did anything in the original story. He was poor, and one day his neighbor gave him a big piece of wood. His neighbor had found it and he wanted to use it, but the second he wanted to cut it, the piece of wood screamed, and he thought, well, I'm not going to do anything with that. Let's give it to Geppetto. Well, Geppetto, being a good wood carver, started to work on it, and it turned into Pinocchio. Pinocchio was not a very nice puppet. He basically was even more mischievous and more naughty than most of us know him from the sweetness that is Disney. The original story was a little bit dark, but it also was written, well, to teach little children to be good boys and girls. And Pinocchio wasn't. He was so mischievous that even his nose started growing before he was finished. And the first thing he did when he had feet was kick Geppetto. Not very nice. Of course, Geppetto teaches him to walk, trades his last warm coat, well, basically his only warm coat, for school books. Now we know that Pinocchio sells that. And some parts of the story he really tries to help. He really intends to go back to Geppetto. But then he gets distracted, or, well, the story of that's told to him by other boys, or by the cat and the fox, so much more interesting than going to school and doing what Geppetto said. Well, the shop is done, so next thing to do is the kitchen. It won't be very fancy because, well, Geppetto wasn't a very rich person, and all he did for Pinocchio. Of course, if you want to know more about Pinocchio, the original writer, the history of the story, but also what really happened to Jiminy Cricket. And believe me, I hope you're not a big fan of the Disney Jiminy Cricket. One thing's the same though, Pinocchio doesn't listen. Not to his father, because that's what Geppetto basically is, and not to the Blue Fairy, and also not to Jiminy. And basically in the original story, the cricket doesn't have a name. Luckily it that ends well, because at a certain part of the story, he and Geppetto are reunited, but Geppetto is getting really sick, and Pinocchio works hard at a farmer to get enough money to take care of Geppetto, and also to take care of himself. And at a certain time he earned so much money, at least for him, that he could buy himself a new coat. He goes to town, wants to buy the coat, and meets the Blue Fairy. The Blue Fairy is very, very ill at that moment. Next room, Geppetto's workshop. Well, getting back to the story, the Blue Fairy is very ill, and well, she needs money for food and medicine. And by now, Pinocchio is a nice boy. Well, a nice puppet, and he gives his savings to the Blue Fairy, and goes home without a new coat. Then one night he dreams that he's being thanked and kissed by the Blue Fairy, and the next morning when he wakes up, he realizes that he's no longer a puppet. The puppet is just a puppet, and it's on the chair, and Pinocchio is a real boy. It is a pretty long story. There are more twists and turns along the way, of course. Like turning into a donkey, of course, the big fish and everything. If you want to know the entire story, I would recommend to read it. Again, it's not as nice and sweet and fairy tale like as the Disney movie, but it's the way people taught their children to be good. This is the bedroom. The small bed is of course Pinocchio's, the big bed is Geppetto's. And I'm going to add some nice books that Pinocchio never uses, or at least in the beginning of the story never uses. He even sells his school books to go to a theater, a puppet theater. Not very nice, because we know that Geppetto traded his only coat for it. I'm keeping the rooms pretty simple because Geppetto was very poor. As you can see, I have a lot of toys. Most of them are of course Toy Day toys. I am thinking about adding the basement and the attic for stock or something, where Geppetto can put everything he's going to sell in the future. Here I'm deciding how to decorate the yard to lure in the customers. For those who know me also know that I really dislike those dolls. I think they're scary. But, well, he's a doll maker, so dolls it is. Down in the description I have put links to information about the story of Pinocchio. I also put a link to a YouTube video in which you can see how the Efteling depicted the story. I like the way they did it. Their man eating fish is a little bit scary, but fun scary, not horrible scary. Also in my description, and I'm pretending that I'm not pointing down as I say this, also in my description you find all the creator codes of the custom designs I'm using. Yes, I'm using an in-game path, but I'm also using a custom design which looked like somebody brushed the snow to the sides, and also the other custom designs I used in the earlier videos. They're all in the description below. Well, this is what it is. A little yard displaying toys to attract the customers, and on a nice sunny day it's actually a pretty nice place to sit. Maybe Geppetto can rest a little in between work. This is his little shop, and of course their bedroom, his workshop, and last but not least, the kitchen. I want to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye!